Once a formidable predator beneath the ocean's surface, the K-141 Kursk became one of history's deadliest submarines. Commissioned in 1994, this nuclear submarine was considered impenetrable, with a size rivaling 2 jumbo jets. Equipped with a powerful arsenal, it was designed to annihilate NATO aircraft carrier battle groups. But in August 2000, during the Summer X exercise in the Barents Sea, the Kursk found itself trapped, transformed into a steel coffin resting on the seabed. This catastrophic event unfolded unexpectedly, costing Russia many lives and $150 million worth of rescue operations, shocking everyone who believed in the sub's invincibility. From the ambitious naval exercise to the daring rescue attempts, we reveal the shocking truth behind the Kursk's demise. The Kursk, part of Project 949A Ante, also known as Oscar II, was the largest cruise missile submarine of its time. It was an engineering marvel, featuring colossal dimensions, powered by 2 nuclear reactors, and armed with devastating weaponry. The submarine's construction boasted watertight compartments, double hulls, and formidable steel armor, designed to endure direct torpedo hits. On August 12, 2000, with high morale and a valiant crew of 118 men, the Kursk set out for action. They believed their submarine was invincible and tragedy seemed unimaginable. Yet, destiny had a different plan in store for them. The Summer X exercise marked a significant milestone in naval training. The Kursk's purpose was to demonstrate its capability as a destroyer of large vessels. On August 10th, the submarine joined the exercise, which involved an intense shootout among participating ships. To showcase its strength, the Kursk launched a Granite cruise missile while submerged. 2 days later, under the command of Captain First Rank Gennady Lykin, the Kursk prepared for another task: attacking the Pyotr Veliki battlecruiser using a dummy torpedo known as the Type 65 kit. These torpedoes possessed the power to sink an aircraft carrier. At 8:51 a.m. on August 12th, Captain Lykin sought permission to commence the torpedo training launch, which was granted by headquarters. With the periscope lifted and a target in sight, Captain Lykin ordered his crew to prepare the first dummy torpedo for launch. At 11:29 a.m., the sailors loaded the torpedo into the starboard side's number 4 tube. However, instead of receiving confirmation of a successful hit, there was only silence from the Kursk. Meanwhile, the hydroacoustics on the Pyotr Veliki detected an unusual underwater explosion signal, followed by a powerful shudder throughout the ship's hull. Despite these indications, the fleet headquarters dismissed the reports as irrelevant, and for the next 2 hours of the planned exercise, no one questioned the Kursk's status. There was no communication from the submarine, no updates. It was only when the scheduled exercise time ended at 1:30 p.m. that Admiral Vyacheslav Alexeyevich Popov, commanding the fleet from the Pyotr Veliki, sent a helicopter to locate the Kursk, but to no avail. As time passed without any communication or appearance of the Kursk, suspicions grew. The submarine failed to send a scheduled communication check, raising further concerns. At 5:30 p.m, the fleet search and rescue team received a standby order. Reconnaissance aircraft were dispatched, and at midnight, an emergency alert was issued, declaring an accident on the nuclear submarine K-141 Kursk. The exercise was halted, and all vessels initiated a search for the missing submarine throughout the night. Normally, locating a sunken submarine would be facilitated by emergency rescue buoys that would automatically activate and float to the surface, indicating the vessel's location. However, in the case of the Kursk, the buoy was nowhere to be found. Fortunately, at 4:50 a.m. on August 13, the Pyotr Veliki echo sounder detected 2 anomalies on the seafloor. The rescue ship Mikhail Rudnitsky equipped with 2 deep submergence rescue vehicles, arrived at the location. The inspection of the seabed began, and at 6:30 p.m, one of the deep submergence rescue vehicles, DSRV, made a crucial discovery. As it urgently surfaced, the rescuers caught a glimpse of propellers and the stern stabilizer of a submarine. It was the Kursk. The vessel lay on the seabed 108 meters below, tilted at a 25-degree angle and descending 5 to 7 degrees by the bow. Disturbing footage from the deep-water camera revealed extensive damage from the bow to the sail. The focus now shifted to attaching the DSRVs to the escape hatch in the 9th compartment. Although the scale of the damage left little hope for survivors, it was believed that if anyone had made it through, they would be waiting in the 9th compartment for rescue. Over the next 6 days, Russian DSRVs battled harsh weather conditions in their attempts to dock with the sub. Unfortunately, each time they approached, the severely damaged rescue hatch made it impossible to establish a connection. It was not until August 17, 5 days after the accident, that President Vladimir Putin accepted foreign offers of assistance. 2 days later, Norwegian and British ships arrived carrying a Norwegian rescue sub and divers. However, the Russian authorities initially denied the foreign divers access to the escape hatch, fearing intelligence gathering. The Norwegians protested, emphasizing that their efforts would be futile without direct access to the submarine hull. Ultimately, a compromise was reached. Norwegian divers were allowed to open the boat, but only Russian divers could enter. On August 21, 9 days after the sinking, Norwegian divers used a special high-velocity water-cutting machine to create the openings in the submarine hull. The Russian divers then entered through the 8th compartment and discovered the lifeless bodies of the 23 sailors in the 9th compartment. They were the last survivors of the Kursk. A message found in the pocket of Captain Lieutenant Dmitry Kolesnikov revealed their final hours, expressing a glimmer of hope amid darkness and despair.
I am writing blindly. The time is 13:15. All personnel from sections 6, 7 and 8 have moved to section 9. There are 23 people here. We made this decision because none of us can escape. It's too dark to write here, but I'll try. It looks like we have no chance, maybe 10 to 20%. I hope that someday someone will read this. Don't despair.
After the accident, the sailors aboard the Kursk managed to survive for a period before their oxygen supply ran out. An investigation later revealed that they unintentionally ignited one of the oxygen regeneration canisters on board, causing a fire that consumed the remaining oxygen, sealing their fate. On August 14th, Russian authorities presented a scenario to explain the sinking of the Kursk. Fleet Admiral Vladimir Kuryedov claimed that the submarine had collided with a NATO submarine, alleging that either USS Memphis, USS Toledo or HMS Splendid had entered the restricted area and caused the collision. This claim reignited Cold War tensions. But the US Secretary of State rejected the accusations, stating that such a scenario was impossible and did not occur. Several factors debunked the collision theory. Firstly, it seemed unlikely that a smaller submarine like USS Memphis could have damaged the Kursk without sustaining significant damage itself. Additionally, the Kursk was designed to withstand torpedo hits, making a collision with a smaller submarine insufficient to cause such extensive damage. Seismic measurements taken by a Norwegian station during the exercise provided further insight. The recordings showed an initial seismic event at 11:29 am, followed by a second event at 11:31 am, which was a staggering 250 times larger. The measured shockwaves indicated the occurrence of torpedo explosions. If a NATO submarine wasn't responsible for the sinking, could the Americans have sunk the Kursk with a torpedo? The official report released by the Russian government in July 2002 shed light on the matter. It was indeed a torpedo that sank the Kursk, but not from a NATO or friendly submarine. The Kursk was sunk by its own torpedo, a Type 65-76A kit torpedo. This modified torpedo, dating back to the 1970s, was designed to target and destroy American aircraft carriers, large submarines, and merchant vessels. It relied on a dangerous fuel combination of hydrogen peroxide and kerosene, providing a long range but posing significant risks. The instability of hydrogen peroxide when in contact with catalysts became the fatal flaw of the Kursk. A faulty weld on a practice dummy torpedo allowed the hydrogen peroxide to leak and react with copper and bronze elements within the torpedo. The resulting combustion ignited 1,000 kilograms of concentrated hydrogen peroxide and 500 kilograms of kerosene. This led to a devastating chain of events. The initial fire in the torpedo section triggered a second explosion when the flames reached 5 to 7 combat-ready torpedoes, each armed with a 450-kilogram warhead. The ensuing blast obliterated the entire bow of the submarine, claiming the lives of most of the crew and causing the Kursk to sink. The seismic impact of the explosion was even registered by stations in Alaska, located 4,500 kilometers away. The first explosion could have been contained by the bulkhead if a pressurized valve in the ventilation system had been closed. However, the valve had been left open, enabling the fire to spread to the fourth compartment. This resulted in the instantaneous loss of the control room, radio room, and quarters, explaining the absence of a distress signal. The failure of the emergency rescue buoy was attributed to a mission undertaken a year earlier, when the Kursk was shadowing US Navy ships. To avoid revealing their presence, the buoy was intentionally disabled, but never reactivated. Fortunately, the fifth compartment housing the nuclear reactors withstood the explosion, and the reactors automatically shut down, preventing a larger catastrophe. Sailors who loaded the dummy torpedoes did notice fuel seeping through a faulty weld. But when they reported the incident to junior officers, no action was taken, as the officers were preoccupied with preparing for the exercise. Had the proper procedure been followed, the tragedy could have likely been averted. In addition to the hydrogen peroxide leakage, the official government report highlighted stunning breaches of discipline, shoddy, obsolete, and poorly maintained equipment, as well as negligence, incompetence, and mismanagement as contributing factors to the tragedy. Despite these findings, the Prosecutor General chose not to file charges, instead attributing the accident to a technical malfunction of the torpedo. Understandably, this decision enraged the families of the deceased sailors. They were aware that their loved ones had perished due to someone's negligence, yet no one was held accountable. In October and November 2000, divers managed to recover 12 bodies from the Kursk, while the remaining crew members remained trapped inside the submarine for another year. Reflecting on his response to the tragedy, President Putin acknowledged that although his actions could have displayed greater urgency, it would not have changed the tragic outcome. However, the perceived lack of visible action during the crisis raised concerns about Russia's handling of the situation and its impact on public perception. In October 2001, 14 months after the accident, the Russian government allocated $65 million to undertake a remarkable salvage operation. Collaborating with the Dutch marine salvage company Mammoet, they embarked on the unprecedented task of recovering the sunken wreckage and the crew's remains. The salvage operation exceeded its initial estimate, costing the Russian government over $150 million, almost $80 million more than anticipated. The operation faced considerable risks due to radiation from the reactor. Mammoet successfully raised the Kursk from the seabed and transferred it to the Roslyakovo shipyard in Murmansk. Among the wreckage, they discovered the bodies of the Kursk crew. However, only 7 of the submarine's 24 torpedoes were retrieved. leaving some questions unanswered. The Kursk disaster stands as a tragic testament to the sacrifices made by 118 courageous men who served their country, even when their country failed to provide them with proper care. Now, if you thought that story was devastating, don't hesitate to watch this next one, which will haunt you even more.